Hello, welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Today I am in my neighbor's garden and going to take care of some of the maintenance that needs to be done. I honestly haven't spent much time over here for the last maybe 2.5 weeks. So we're going to go ahead and take some time and make sure that this garden space is where it needs to be. And I'm bringing you with me. So let's go. The first thing that I want to do is take care of these indeterminate tomatoes. So indeterminate tomatoes, they're going to grow and grow and grow, and they're going to vine and vine and vine. And I need to get rid of the suckers and all of the leaves that are close to the ground. And I haven't done that yet over here. So we're going to work on that project first. So while I'm over here, I'm going to do some weeding as well. Try to keep these weeds down. But for any kind of tomatoes, you really want to remove all of your lower leaves so you can prevent splashback from watering and just disease and everything that you can get from the ground. So I like to remove about 12 inches of leaves from the bottom. I'm also going to remove any suckers that may be on here. I know later in the season I get lazy and I don't remove most of the suckers, but it's early. Let's do it right. Now, I should have been over here a long time ago. That some of these suckers on these particular plants are huge. It's like a full plant now because I didn't take care of it early on. And, I got an idea. I'm going to cut this one off. And this one, so this sucker, that's a full tomato plant, I am actually going to bury it over here. I am going to just bury it in the ground. And no, it doesn't have roots, but I know I can get another plant out of it by just burying this part of the plant. Now, it's going to look pretty sickly for a few days, but it will bounce back. So that takes care of that one, but we need to continue to get the suckers off of here so we don't have that situation again. Oh, wow. Maybe I shouldn't have done that one. That's a black cherry, and they produce so prolifically. They produce a lot, and I just planted another cherry tomato. Oh, well, it's my neighbor's garden. I'm sure he will enjoy all of the cherry tomatoes for his wonderful salads. But I got more cherry tomatoes than I can do anything with. So at least it's in my neighbor's garden, and I'm sure he will enjoy it. I was trying to figure out why this one was growing so well, and now I know why. Cherry tomatoes grow like crazy, like weeds even. I mean, they are so fast to grow, and they'll grow pretty much in any kind of weather and temperature and everything, so not surprised. And there are already tomatoes on here. Oh, wow. Yes, tomatoes are already here. So it won't be long now before this plant will be producing like crazy. I lost the spring on my little tool here, and so I have to open it and closing it manually, and I'm obviously not doing such a great job of that. The reason why you prune off your bottom leaves, one, to keep splashback from the ground and to help with airflow. So your plants absolutely need good airflow to help with the pollination for one, and just good plant health. And so you cut off the bottom leaves, you remove suckers throughout, and you'll see a big difference in growth and pollination. Now, one of the other things I like to do is take my plants and give it a little shake. And that'll help with the pollination as well. almost cut my finger off. I gotta watch where I put my fingers. Now that would be kind of a horrible situation. For a living, I'm a safety manager, so I try to keep people safe. And here I am about to cut my own finger with my little shears here. That's not good. One of the other things that I need to do is provide some way to attach this indeterminate tomato to this stake. And I have a few extra mighty crops. It's a type of support that you can use. Is a mighty crop brand is what it's called. And it will help maintain this particular plant. So let me show you how I'm going to do it. I never put the stake all the way in because I always intended to add these. And so I'm going to add 2. And let me show you how these work. Well, that's interesting. I had it in upside down. That's very interesting. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just put it right back in its home here. And this time I'm going to push it all the way down. All right, so now it's in here. And what's going to happen is this plant is going to continue to grow. And as it grows up, I am going to attach it with this right here. So this can be moved up or down. It has multiple places where you can attach it on the outside or up through the center. And so this will be the way we trellis this particular plant. It's a different type of trellising than these red ones, but it works. And I think you'll be amazed on how well this is going to help trellis this one plant. And so I have an extra one on here. So as it continues to grow, we can take care of it as it gets taller and taller. But right now, it doesn't need to be captured. Probably another 6 inches to a foot or so, and then I'll have to use this trellis. But this is set up, it's ready to go. All of my indeterminate tomatoes have been taken care of. Oh, I forgot. I was going to plant one of these suckers in this bed here. I have 2 of these giant crimsons that I thought were decent sizes. But I'm going to plant both because I don't know if this is going to work or not if I transplant it in here. The soil in this bed is not the best, but we're going to try to give it a go and see if we can get this to root. And then I'm going to plant another one just beside it here. And whichever one takes off, if either takes off, that's the strongest, we will keep. And the other one, we will get it out of the way. But at least I got them in the ground. And let's see how they do. Now, all of my indeterminate tomatoes have been taken care of. And now let's look at the determinate tomatoes. Now, this bed here has determinate tomatoes in it. And the only thing that I need to do with these is make sure I remove the leaves closest to the ground, only to help with splashback. That's it. We're going to keep all the suckers on these, and it should give us a bushier plant, and that's really what we want with with determinate tomatoes. They stay short and bushy. Might as well get some weeding done in this bed since I'm here. We had carrots here that were overwintering, and so we've already removed those. This is all rosemary here that's looking really nice. And these, I want to say volunteered, but rosemary is actually a perennial. And so it didn't really volunteer. It did just what it was supposed to do. It came back in this bed here. This bed, though, everything's looking a little yellow. The tomato plants aren't looking the best either. So we're going to make sure we fertilize everything over here. And I tell you what, I was supposed to fertilize over here 2.5 weeks ago, and I never did. So we are going to give a good liquid fertilizing to the whole space once I'm finished working over here. So the next thing I want to do is finish up with the determinate tomatoes to get those leaves from close to the ground. And my little wheelie cart here won't fit in between these beds. So I'm going to have to just squat down. Just removing anything close to the ground, and that's it. Now you still need to have good airflow, even with a determinate tomato, but you want to keep as many of the suckers as you can. So, because for a determinate tomato, that bushier plant, a lot of times the fruit will all come in pretty close to the same time. But the key piece here is that they're going to stay short and they're not going to vine out of control. And that's what we want with these particular ones. So they should be nice and bushy. They already got some blooms on them. So let's give them a little shake to help with pollination. But these three are ready to go. So just like the other bed, this is a tasty wine, Tasmanian chocolate, a purple heart, and a few other ones. As they start coming in and bearing fruit, then I'll share a little bit more about the different types that I have. For now, we are just going to focus on removing these bottom leaves. And some of these look really nice. Some of these are kind of puny. We will figure out which varieties we like best. Okay, I have all of my tomatoes taken care of. I've done all the pruning with the tomatoes. I worked on the staking of tomatoes in a couple different places that had stakes and they needed trellis on them. And now I'm going to try to do some fertilizing for the whole garden. So I am using Fox Farm Grow Big fertilizer. And I like to fertilize every, I don't know, 7 to 10 days typically. But just to be honest with you, I don't get over here as often as I like. So we are going to go ahead and start fertilizing each of the beds. And I'm just going to start on the back side here, and I will time lapse this so you don't have to wait. Now I had already watered over here this morning. These are onion, and onion need lots and lots of fertilizer. They're heavy feeders. I put fertilizer in this big blue bin here, so I don't have to keep mixing every individual one. So all I got to do is fill my little container and walk to the next plant. Since I am now done with the garden maintenance over here at my neighbor's garden, let's just go ahead and do a garden tour for the area so you can just see how everything's growing in this space. So we will first start with the GreenStalk. Look at that. It looks good outside of that white cabbage moth, which, oh, I hate the moths. Trying to lay their eggs behind to give me the green cabbage worms, but it's looking good. It's nice. I'm getting in the shade, so let me stay on this side. The GreenStalk looks good. It's got basil. We do have some lettuce that has bolted that we will need to remove and replace. There's tomatoes coming in, and these are micro dwarf tomatoes actually. So these little baby tomatoes. The marjoram's looking good. So my neighbor actually had lettuce that was bolting here. Removed the lettuce, and they had some green onion clips, and or spring onion, some people call them. And he just kept the little white ends and planted those little white ends, and now he has green onions coming up out of his GreenStalk. So he is really getting a lot of great use out of the GreenStalk, and my neighbor's having fun again in the garden. There are huge radishes in here. I'm going to pull one just so you can see it. My neighbors are on vacation, but there's a radish ready to be taken in the house and eaten. And they're in there pretty close, and they're like touching each other. So I'm glad that I Took this one out and we'll take it into the house and enjoy it. He has carrots coming in here. The carrots need to be thinned. More lettuce that's bolting. But the GreenStalk is looking amazing. So this raised bed has peppers, and everything in his garden is, in my mind, what I call stunted. I never get large plants in his garden, and I believe it's the soil, which we're working on, which I keep talking about. We're working on the soil, but a couple of more years and I will have the soil to the point where I like it. So we have onion in this space, and guess what? Celery. More celery and more celery. I've harvested twice now throughout the gardens, and I'll probably wait till next weekend and harvest this one. Back here in this bed, I have bush cucumbers and one lone tomato plant in the back here. It's a steakhouse tomato plant, and I added the rest of the trellising to this space here. So it's ready to go on the trellis when it's time. Moving to this bed here. I mean, like, look how tiny the pepper plants are in this bed. They are tiny, but they're trying to bloom. So I believe it's the soil. These green beans are doing awesome. I just fertilized them. The winter squash back here is doing pretty good. I'm getting ready to expect this to start trailing all over the place, and so I will start sending it up the trellis. So I don't believe there's nutritional issues with the soil because the green beans look amazing. And a green bean is the first plant that will start showing signs that there's a problem with the nutrient value of the soil. I really believe it's just that the soil is so dense and thick and heavy with the clay. Another bed. Cucumbers on the back side of this one. Squash in the middle. This bed here has cucumbers, bush cucumbers in the middle of the bed, and vining cucumbers in the back. And I planted this pitiful looking sucker that I pulled off one of the other plants. I gave it a good watering, and we will check on this by the end of the week and you'll see that it's looking good. My indeterminate tomatoes here are looking nice. I got all of those bottom leaves off. It's nice and clean. Airflow will be nice on these. Over here, the tomatoes are staked. They've been pruned. They look good. Over here, I have squash. This is a patty pan. I have a white scallop and a green patty pan in this space here. In this space here, this is just a green patty pan. I gave everything a good fertilizing, so it should start taking off really soon. All of my dwarf tomatoes are looking great. I have a Ford hook zucchini here, and I honestly don't remember what that is, but it's some type of zucchini. It might be yellow zucchini. On the edge of this bed are more beans, and it's a mixture of beans. These tomatoes are beefsteak style tomatoes, but they're on a short bushy plant. This is Seeger. I've never grown it before, but I think it's a salette type tomato. Bigger than a cherry, smaller than a slicer. Another white scallop, and some random beans in the back there. I have beans everywhere. I think I soaked like 200 or 300 too many, so I was sticking beans everywhere. These are the giant crimson tomato plants that I cut off of another tomato plant and just stuck them right there in the ground without rooting them. So we will see how they do. But this is my neighbor's garden on June 10th, 2023. So it's doing well. It's probably about a week or two behind my main garden for a couple of different reasons. One, I planted it later, And this garden receives very little, if any, evening sun. So all of the sun that it gets is first thing in the morning, and then up until maybe about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's shaded out for the rest of the day. So it's going to be a little slower to produce, but it's healthy. Everything looks good, and I did give it a fertilizing today. Thanks for hanging out in the garden with me over at my neighbor's. Maintaining the garden is an important part of having a great harvest. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And as always, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you back here again really soon. Thank you and have a wonderful day.